Houston.
Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and to every nook and cranny receiving the signals from our 100,000 watt transmitter, permeating all those crevices, nooks, and crannies into those little old-fashioned magical boxes known as what again? Radios. And of course, welcome to the world via the magic of the internet, formerly known as ARPANET, which was created by all of you listening to me, by all you out there who used your nice paying tax dollars, using your intellect, using your whatever, whomever you are. Folks, remember, this society only exists because of you, not some billionaire that has learned how to use a capitalist system to do what? To profit off of you. You are the one who make things happen. Don't ever, ever forget it. Don't ever lose who you are. Don't ever forget your worth, because you are worth more than any one of those folks you see on TV, the billionaires, the parasites of the world. Anyway, before we get started, let's go to the geniuses in the studio. Good morning, my favorite geniuses.
Jack, have you seen my wealth?
No,
I'm looking for my wealth. I mean, I looked in my pocket. I've got $3.
It was stolen. It was stolen from you.
Oh, just like the election was in 2020, huh?
Yeah.
Howard, don't worry. It's always the last place you look.
Well, because the reason it is the last place you look is you don't look anymore when you find it.
Right.
Oh,
a good
God.
one.
It's Monday again.
You were missed. Hey, you were missed on Friday, man. You were missed on Friday. It's like you had Jack working like an octopus.
Yeah, I know. But Jack can do it, though. He's very capable of running this radio station without me.
I made a few flubs.
He's going to get to do it again on Wednesday because I've got other things going on.
There you go.
Hey, good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, Jack. How you doing?
You know, I was reading your post this morning, and I really liked the one about the renewable energy.
Oh, yes.
You know, I'm a softie for old Mother Nature, so here it goes. You know what Mom likes? You know, Mom, Mother Nature, Mother Earth, she really digs renewables. Mother hates big oil because big oil will drive us, the citizens of the world, off a climate cliff for profit of a few. Where there's big oil, there's war.
Where there's big oil, there's big trouble.
No kidding. But that article was real good, if at times a bit pessimistic. But you know what? There are certain things that I was reading that article, Jack, and there are certain things that, the person who wrote the article wrote it as if today is almost static and didn't notice that we make a lot of progress in a lot of areas. But all in all, I love the article, and it's several points as well. But kind of want to talk about that a little bit. But beforehand, I want to thank every single person who contributed to our successful summer fund drive. As usual, Houston and surrounding areas, and to some extent the surrounding world, have always come through for this little, very powerful station in Houston, Texas, that is listened to all over the world. We want to give you a big thank you. The fund drive was absolutely successful, and we could not do it without you. You've given us some running legs for another couple months, which is necessary. But most of all, I just love the idea of being able to talk to you all directly and not have to be, could you go ahead and call 713-526 and hit extension 1? So anyway, Jacob, I'm coming to you in a second. Just want to give a shout out to what the program is about today. Title of the program today is Journalism as It Should Be. Item number 1, 7 steps to what a real renewable energy transition looks like. And I want to play a couple of videos I was supposed to play last week that I didn't. Usually I tell you to simply go to politicsandright.com, or rather that you can go to politicsandright.com/newsletter to check it out. But I want to play these videos if I get a chance to, depending on how many calls we get in this morning. But remember, the fund drive is over, so you have 100% of the time dedicated to program and not pitching. So anyway, without further ado, let's go to Brother Jacob. Jacob, come on in.
Yeah, blessings in the AM.
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
All right. What I wanted to say now, I'm listening to I guess you call them the right wings or the Republicans, man, on the radio. Is ridiculous, man. It's like a lot of things they brought them and baited. I'm not sure if you brought them and baited like a circus. And so when I be talking about Kamala, it's not because I really don't like them. To be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
I really don't like them. But with Trump, they go. I don't know, man. They putting it in the air for him because a lot of them, he don't even care. He really don't even care about them. To be honest with you, like the rural people, like the rural, what they call so-called white and rural America, who getting government aid and things. He really don't care about them. But a lot of them think that he's so prejudiced that they'll vote with him on that aspect. But and what I'm not sure if you know about BIN, Black Information Network, Black Information
Yes.
Network.
Uh-huh.
They have a poll, yes sir. They have a poll that Kamala is polling at 76% among the descendants of the slaves of America. She's 76 and 74, and Trump is polling at 16%. If Trump gets 16% of the so-called black vote, man, I don't know, bro. It's over for her, man. I think. Go ahead.
ADAS. Yeah, ADAS is I am not a fan of ADAS. ADAS
Right.
calls for the descendants of African. What is it? African descendants of slaves. That's what it stands for, and it's really a divisive group, in my opinion. It's a divisive group that tries to split black people up. In other words, black people we are only talking about American black folks. We don't want to talk about black folks from Panama, the Caribbean, Africa, or anything. You guys are no good. It's a divisive movement. And it's also a movement that has been infiltrated by the right. It is also mostly run by, even though there are black women in there, by black men. So it's something. It is a piece of movement that Donald Trump likes to target, and somehow they think they have an alliance. I don't put a lot of credence into it, but I hear you.
I didn't even mention ADOS. That BIN is it's a news network. Black
Right. No, I
Information.
know. Yeah, I know.
So
I
I
know.
didn't even. That's what I call us here. From this particular area, and the reason why we have to do that, Umberto, is because nobody is recognizing the who built this country, which our descendants did. Even though y'all have parts of the world, that y'all can go to, we don't. This is the only place we can go. We can't
Yeah.
go. What can we? I can't go to Panama. I can't go to Nicaragua. I can't go to the Honduras. I can't go to Jamaica. They can come here though. Where can we go and get some of the things that y'all have offered to y'all? We can't go nowhere. So we have to look out for us because we have always looked out for everybody else. We got to stick together and get some things accomplished for us and our particular descendants is the ones who went through hell for 400 years here. And we carrying their names and things of that nature. So that's why. And I wouldn't talk about ADOS, but the call was for if Kamala does not, if Trump gets 16% of the so-called black vote, it's over. I'm telling
No,
you now.
actually, no, I agree. I agree with you, Jacob, that if he were to get 16% of the black vote in a close election, I would agree with you that it's absolutely over. Now, number one, you mentioned.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead. Go ahead. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
They've been getting 90. Because I'm gonna get off the phone because I know you got people going. Then you got a program. But 90%. They was the Democrat Party for the 50 years. Been getting like 90% plus for 50 years. And the thing is, we feel neglected by them. Like, oh, but y'all can give the HBGQ, the immigrants, y'all got the specific bills on their name, but y'all can't do nothing just for us. So that's why I think a lot of people believe in them. As far as you call them it also, whatever. But that's why. All right, I'm gonna listen to you, man.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Let me just say something about what Jacob had to say, right? The biggest magic in a fascist country, in a I call it a capital of fascist country, is to divide people in all kinds of ways, right? You divide people by race, you divide people by culture, you divide people by ethnicities, you divide people by region. That is the magic that's the only magic where our current economic system would maintain. One of the goals that I have is to prevent that division on all types, whether it be racial, whether it be interracial, intraracial, interethnic, intraethnic. All these things are false divisions. When the poll that Jacob just spoke about, yeah, it's a poll out there. I think it has a slight bias. If you hear something that Jacob just said, it is one of the things that are placed within the black community to try to create division. I mean, there's a very large uh, population of black people from outside of the US that are integral to the United States now. And one way to split that community is to go ahead and create that chasm between, let's say, Black Caribbean, Black African, Black Latinos, and the Black American, the native Black American. I hate saying native Black American because it's not native Black American, it's not native Black Latino or anything like that. We were all brought over here on a ship, just stopped at different ports, right? You stopped in Brazil, you stopped in Panama, you stopped in Jamaica, you stopped in the United States. Um, but by creating that false division, we can get some of the things that Jacob had to say there. Jacob said something that was touching, right? Jacob said, those of us from the Caribbean or the Latin America or from Africa, we have a place to go, while born Americans don't. And the classic mistake there, in my opinion, Jacob, with respect, is that what you are saying is that I could come here to the United States as if you couldn't go to Panama. The interesting thing about it is quite different. If marginalized black folks from the United States decided to make that trek to Panama, decided to make that trek to Jamaica, what they will actually see is that most of the times they will live a better life than they are here. But that is not what's in the psyche of people. What's in the psyche of people is like, oh, those people can come here. They have and then they have a place to call home. Not realizing that you can go there and you also have a place to call home back here in the United States. That's not what's preached, but that is the reality. So, Jacob, I just want to push back on that one thing. When you say those of us here have a place to go and you don't, the truth of the matter is the same way we could migrate is the same way you can. But what's taught over here, I mean, when I talk about there's a different over here what we do with all populations, and this is not just a black population, this is all populations. We put minds in chains. Other countries do it. Those of us who can remember, on Friday I talked about mobility. Mobility applies to those who are willing to unchain their minds. Leaving a country or leaving a place, even leaving a city that sometimes people feel entrapped in is mostly, yes, to some extent economic, but a whole lot of times mental. All right, let's go to Brother Johnny. Come on in, Johnny.
Egberto, one of the many reasons why I love KPFT and your show in particular is you learn something every day. Until a few minutes ago, I didn't know of the existence of something called ADOS or ADOS.
Oh, yeah. ADOS. African descendants of slaves. Yeah.
And I like what you were implying. You were reminding us about infiltration. And here's the way I look at how we can, one of the ways we can solve this problem of infiltration of our groups, different activist groups, whether it's Move On or the environmental movements or Pacific Radio, is, you know how the military, the U.S. Marines do, they have what they call the buddy system.
Mm-hmm.
And that buddy system is genius because the accountability is tight amongst the guys who train together. They know each other. They're like brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And so similarly, what we should be doing is we should be recruiting and encouraging people who work together from when they were grade school and high school friends, because that is the best way to vet people that you've known a long time. And that counters the deep mole issue as well. I think that would be one way to do it.
I think. Go ahead, Jenny. I'm
the
sorry.
reason why I called is I wanted to compliment you. I like the way you've been starting your show in the past few days, using the economic perspective from the socialist point of view. I really like that. I think you found that sweet spot in how to open your show. So
thank you.
I want to.
Well, let me tell you why I started that, right? I started that because I hear from Biden to Trump to all these guys, they idolize this unfettered capitalist system as something that is good, moral, or whatever, which it is, by all metrics that fails, right? I am saying I believe in free enterprise, don't get me wrong. But I mean, by all metrics, the system that we have here fail. And what drives me crazy is we look at the numbers and, let me give an example that's a little bit explosive. I'm going to get out of the economic realm and get into the political, social realm just to show you what I mean. Right now in Palestine or in Gaza, there are 40 something plus dead people. There's decimated infrastructure, etc., etc., etc. Now on the Israeli side, there are 1,200 dead Israelis. All these are bad things. But when we look at proportionality, right? We look at the leaders of Hamas and we look at the leader of Israel, Netanyahu. How can you have a population that sees 40,000 people dead and the decimation of infrastructure, no significant decimation of infrastructure, and 1,200 people dead, and then you ask yourself, who is the aggressor? I mean,
I have an answer to that.
But before you answer, John, what I'm trying to show is how we have allowed propaganda, infiltration, and so much to let us see things, see actuality, and have a different interpretation of what is absolute. Go ahead, my friend.
So part of the answer to what you just said is the way Kamala Harris brought up Gaza at the DNC a few days ago. She this is why she's a politician, okay? She described, I forgot the adjective that she used when she described what the Palestinian people have been going through. I'll say horrible. She didn't use that word. She used a different adjective. But the way she did it was she didn't make it sound, she didn't put the blame, the responsibility on the people with all the weapons and all the
Right.
soldiers and all that. And that's a big part of why how people are being propagandized. And that goes to media. And by the way, when you made a comment earlier about media, I will compliment that, dovetail with what you said earlier, as to let you know that I have that Mad as Hell DVD, that 1 hour, 22-minute DVD of Cenk Uygur, and I just printed more discs. I'm going to pass them out to some targeted people later today.
Great. Good for you, man. Good for you. I mean, it's amazing. But I boomeranging back from Israel to how I start the show is that there are several things that I want people to know, and that is, first of all, they are the ones who make things happen. There is not one billionaire that could exist without them, while they can and have always existed without these billionaires. And but the narrative, when we constantly hear the same narrative and we learn who are the powerfuls and we actually start to believe it. And my goal is to tell people, nope, I don't believe in the billionaire. I believe in you. You shouldn't believe in the billionaire. You should believe in you. And because and this is not something nice that I'm saying. This is just factual. This is what it is. Go ahead, brother.
Existence, and I'll hang up now. But the existence of a billionaire is contrary to a functioning democracy. You can't have both. Just
No.
like dynasties. You can't have the Clinton dynasty and democracy. They don't mix, especially since she is a hedge fund bunny in her royal blue corporate pantsuit. And that's all I have to say. I'm dying
Thank
to
you.
hear what subsidized oil industry Joe has to say today. Have a good day.
Thank you, my brother Johnny. All right, let's go to Donald. Come on in, Donald. How are you doing this morning, my brother?
Hey, good morning, Alberto. You should be dancing this morning because you made it through Fund Drive, and thank everyone for giving. But you're tiptoeing this morning. You was tiptoeing. Now, I've been wanting to ask you this. When you're – oh, go ahead.
No, you go, please.
Okay. The guy that said you were an import, give us some detail into that.
Well, actually, there are several of them that call me that, but the one when I was in – you're talking about the one when I was in college, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm sitting. Look, when I went to college, I like to join a lot of organizations, and I joined a particular one called the Afro American Culture Committee. And by the way, Jacobs, a lot of us black folks that come over here want to make sure that we integrate ourselves with everybody. And one of the I joined several organizations at UT: South African Liberation Action Committee, the Afro American Culture Committee, Pi Sigma Pi, several of them. But anyhow, so I'm sitting down in there. And we're listening to Martin Luther King. It was during the Martin Luther King period of the year, and there were times I had a dream, all that good stuff. And I like Martin Luther King's dream, but I also said, but I like Malcolm X. And I said one of the reasons I like Malcolm X, and by the way, Malcolm X isn't that figure that they try to portray here in the United States, this evil dude or whatever. This guy believe everything that says, if you hit me, I hit you back. If you slap me, I slap you back. I do believe in love, all that good stuff. And I said the problem I had with MLK is that MLK asked others to cede his freedom. In other words, and folks, I'm going to get slapped around for this. In other words, he wanted to shame people into giving him equality, while Malcolm X said equality belongs to me. I don't cede my freedom. I don't cede anything to anybody else. And if you look at our founding fathers, that's how they felt too. They didn't cede their freedom to the crown. They went ahead, and when the crown didn't give them the freedom that they wanted, they took it. And so that's what I'm for. I love everybody, but I also believe in taking what's mine. Freedom is mine. Freedom is yours, Donald. You don't let anybody take that away from you. So I kind of gave that speech, and they said, "Oh, you're a damn import. You don't know anything. You weren't born here." They call me everything. They call me a black Mexican, all this kind of stuff. They called me in that room. Until I woke them up and I said, "Let me tell you something, guys. Let me remind you. that the ship stopped in, Central America, Jamaica, and all that kind of stuff as well. None of us here came on a pleasure cruise. So that's how I got started, Donald.
Well, I love this show. No, no, go ahead. But when it comes to the arms, you got to think about it as fireworks.
Oh
Fireworks
God.
have a shelf life, and
hmm
nobody gets to buy fireworks for free. So somebody's going to pay for it, and somebody's going to manufacture it. And what we do at the start of these wars that we go kick off everywhere is we give them all our surplus that has a shelf life, or the ones that we can't use. But it's okay for them to use. So if you think about it as fireworks, that's kind of what we are, is a fireworks.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that's what we do.
Donald, you just put a new little direction onto this getting rid of all our surplus bombs, huh? Wow.
It's the truth. And then just like your billionaires, you got to think about it. They're subsidized. Whereas in like, if you go back in history and you look at like Nathan's hot dogs or whatever, that guy built it himself and then
hmm
built the empire. Look
hmm
at how those are built. Nowadays, we subsidize certain people, give them monies to make, let's say, electric cars in certain states and blah, 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 blah. They didn't have to come up with a capital and they didn't have to do anything. They come up with an idea, but the capital is brought from us. And you just put those in food for thought. But that's all I got to
No,
say
wait, wait,
about
wait,
that.
wait. Don't, Donald, before you
Ground.
go, I want to tell you how smart a notion you just gave. You gave the difference between a free enterpriser and a capitalist. That speech you just gave there is what I'm talking about. I believe in that guy who created his own sausage and started to sell his sausage. He built that up and created a company out of it, and he makes a profit from that. But now that's not where the billionaires are made. The billionaires are made from using other people's money, using capital, and moving around paper. I mean, what you just said, Donald, was genius. Thank you, brother. You have a great rest of your day.
Sing it from the rooftops. Later.
All
Bye.
right, brother. All right, folks, let's go to brother Harry. Then I'm gonna try to get in a video. Come on in, brother Harry.
Good morning, Brother Alberto, and good morning to you, Howard, and good morning to you, Jack. Well, I like what Jacob said this morning. I like what the mayor of politics done right said. I learned something too, like the mayor of politics done right did say there. I didn't know about ADOS. I'll do some research on that. But I wanted to finish my point off last week with when I called Friday when I was talking about the protesters and Kamala Harris. And Tag mentioned this on Dr. John and on Mike's show that when they had a show is, does Kamala Harris have a Middle East problem? And I think she's in a very difficult position because she's been on board with Joe Biden with the funding that they've been funding Israel with these weapons. And I think it was wrong for the Democratic National Convention not to give those protesters a platform. Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! Had been interviewing them all last week, and they were very upset that they didn't have any Judean people up there speaking and having their say, and why they want a arms embargo, which they're not going to get. And they should have been able to have their say. And I just don't know. She's going to have trouble, I think, in Michigan and in Georgia because a lot of those Sunni and Shia people vote. And as Tag said, she's going to have trouble if they don't feel she's on their side. And so she's got to worry about that because they vote too. And if they stay home and they don't vote, that's going to hurt Kamala Harris.
Let me interrupt you a second, please, Harry. Harry, let me interrupt you a second. And first of all, tell you that you're right about, in my opinion, that look, it was a great DNC convention, but the big, big mistake was not to the Palestinians came with a hell of a compromise. I need to let folks
That's
understand
right.
this. They had a hell of an effort. They weren't going to throw an activist on stage that was going to scream down. They brought in a representative from Georgia, an elected representative from Georgia who endorsed Kamala Harris. and that was the person who was going to give the 2-minute speech for on behalf of the Palestinian viewpoint. And it was again, it was an elected state representative out of Georgia that was going to read from the script that they prepared and that the people at the DNC were to approve. It was a great speech. It wasn't an incendiary speech. The reason why, and the only reason why that didn't get placed was the power of AIPAC. And I tell you what, Bowman, right, Bowman, and the loss of Bowman and Cory Bush, those two Congress people showed that AIPAC does have some influence, a lot of influence actually. And what Kamala and their team did was they figured 75 days left, who is best to piss off? And the truth of the matter is, if you take a look at who always suffers when compromises are to be made, it's Palestinians and in general people of color. That is always the case when a compromise has to be made. Even a Barack Obama, even a Kamala Harris, they have to make that compromise. And what I tell people a lot of time, and one of my 3 o'clock listeners got upset at me for saying that, I tell them you have to look at the bigger picture. You have to look at the bigger picture until we neuter AIPAC. A lot of us are going to end up on the back end, but you know what? For the better good, sometimes, as long as we're moving in the right direction, we'll have to be on the back end for a while. Continue, my brother Harry.
Yeah, one more point I was going to make on that. When Joe Biden opened up with his speech, and at the end when they were chanting, I didn't learn this until Amy Goodman interviewed the next day, when they were talking about, "We love you, Joe, we love you, Joe," when he was giving a swan song. They had those protesters had come in there and had their banner up, and then the police came and arrested them and escorted them out. And I just felt that was wrong, because they have a right to have a voice and have their banners up just like anybody else has their banners up. They should not have been silenced like that. I mean, what happened to freedom of speech in this country? You know, they should be allowed to have their say and speak. That just was wrong for the DNC to do that.
Let me tell you, I've been to several conventions. In fact, I've been a delegate on a convention, and it is very, very staged. Okay. And the bottom line is the majority wins. Now, when I went as a Bernie Sanders delegate, and we had our signs and all of that to bring up when it came to pointing things out on Hillary Clinton or whatever. My part, the role that I played as a Bernie delegate is, look, I didn't want to hurt Hillary Clinton because I know that we wanted to win the election, and we knew that the cameras were going. The first negative thing the camera was going to be onto. So as a Bernie Sanders candidate who had a lot of Hillary Clinton support to become a Bernie delegate, I played sort of a mediating role in, yes, we can put some of these signs up, but let's be mindful in the way we do it. We want to protest in a way that doesn't particularly hurt the candidate, but still get our voices heard. And I think at this particular convention, the arrest and so forth isn't what happened at the Bernie convention. That was wrong, in my opinion. I don't even know on what grounds they could arrest the delegate.
Right.
Well, but anyhow, I need to go to my video. So Harry, I appreciate your call.
I'll listen and enjoy the show, and I'll call back tomorrow about something I heard on Arnie Arnson's show today with Donald Trump in Texas. I want to talk about that, but we'll talk about that tomorrow.
Thank you, my brother. You have a wonderful day. All right, guys, I want you to listen to, there are 2 videos that I want to play. Let's go with the first one, and then we'll go with the second one thereafter. Let's get busy right now. I want to play a piece that Clinton did at the thing. I don't know if I'll get to all of them, but here is the one that I want to point out that's important about how good the job system is under Democrats. Check this out.
You're going to have a hard time believing this, but so help me, I triple checked it. Since the end of the Cold War in 1989, America has created about 51 million new jobs. I swear I checked this 3 times. Even I couldn't believe it. What's the score? Democrats 50, Republicans 1.
If you heard that line from President Clinton last night, odds are you did the same thing I did. You Googled it to see if he was right. And he was. The difference is striking. And even more so if you go back even further to the end of World War II, for example. 14 presidents, 7 from each party, the total 88 million jobs added under Democrats and 32 million under Republicans. Joining us now, the nation's national affairs correspondent, John Nichols. So, John, Republicans are the ones that get credit for the economy. How do you explain that when you see that jobs number divide?
Well, I suspect it comes down to the basic reality that Democrats don't always message as well as they should. That's one of the reasons why Bill Clinton shows up at every convention. This is now, I can't even count the numbers, probably, like 14 or so or something. But he shows up at every convention, and he's the stats guy. He does this.
Divide we're seeing. You're talking about it being a messaging issue for the Democrats. Do you see that messaging? Do you see that messaging changing? Is this version of the Democratic Party, have we seen enough of it to anticipate that they're going to have a better handle on it going into the future?
Sure. I think there's a couple things we've seen at this convention. For one thing, they've embraced the word union. They haven't been uncomfortable with it. And truthfully, not that many decades back or even years back, Democrats were a little bit more cautious about going all in for their union base. Not at this convention. Union members, union leaders have been front and center.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, look at what I have on page 43. This is the jobs per president linked out. It's a little plug for my book. See this book? Oh, I stopped it there because I forgot that that was my 3:00 show, and in there I had a little plug in for my book. But actually, back when I wrote that book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, I pointed out back then that it was bunk, all of what you hear about how great Republicans are on the economy, because the American president that created the most jobs, bar none, in America was Bill Clinton. 23 million jobs. The Republicans' former Jesus Christ before Trump was Ronald Reagan. Everybody praises the economy Ronald Reagan had, even though he crashed it and then he kind of built it up going back up. He created 16 million jobs. Again, they praise Reagan for 16 million jobs, and while Clinton got 23 million jobs created. So far, Biden, even with the 800,000 job reduction since March, still has 15 million jobs in one term. Of course, if you remove COVID, it's about 6 million jobs. Now, you take a look at Carter, President Carter. Carter had 10 million jobs in one term. Okay? So all the other Republican presidents had very menial numbers. Let me give you some numbers here. Harry Truman was Democrat, 8.4 million. Dwight Eisenhower, Republican, 3.5 million. John F. Kennedy, 3.6 million. John F. Kennedy is the worst one as far as job production for the Democrats. You had, let's see, George Bush Sr., 3 million. George Bush Jr., 2.5 million. Next to nothing, right? So the big job creators have always been Democrats. Yet somehow they try to make it look like conservatism and the policies of Republicans somehow create jobs. The numbers are out there for everybody to see. I wrote it in the book back several years ago. And still, we hear all this thing about, oh, well, You hear Kamala versus Trump, that Trump has a higher number for that people trust him more for the economy. Again, that is what propaganda does. It lies to you. It doesn't tell you the truth, and it has you making bad decisions. If you want a bad economy, you elect Republican leadership. If you doubt it, look at how COVID was handled versus how Ebola and H1N1 was handled. Just look at the difference. It's called the adults versus the greedy children. As far as leadership is concerned, the adults versus the greedy children. And that is, we've always had it, and it is sad that we have yet to get it codified in the minds of people that the worst leadership comes from whom again? Republican leadership. I'm not talking about my Republican brothers and sisters. I'm talking about the leadership, and the data is there to prove it. Unfortunately, the media doesn't run on data. They run on hey, how things look. Oh my God, can I have a beer with this guy? While you have an intellectual like, let's say, an Obama or a Kamala Harris or a Bill Clinton or which was the other Democratic president? I love Carter. Carter was a nuclear physicist. I love Carter. I think Carter is the most moral, best president we've ever had when it comes to integrity. I love that guy. I mean, simply love that guy. Anyhow, I've got one other video to show what real journalism looked like. This one I won't have to cut from the difference that I did in the 3 o'clock show. So let me go ahead and play that one, and then we'll move on from there. Once again, Ali Velshi shows why he's one of the best journalists on cable TV right now. And that is not only becoming an explainer in chief, but the necessary clarification of lies that we get from our former president, Donald Trump, and others. This is important because the mainstream media continues to treat Trump as someone of value or someone we should listen to, even as they somehow point out that he's generally inaccurate. Not really. He's just a thug and a liar. But again, Ali Velshi did a great thing in explaining what the Labor Department reported late last week. And that is that, in fact, the job numbers were higher than they actually were. Donald Trump, on his tweet, made believe that this is somehow a conspiracy. I want you to listen to Ali Velshi, and then we'll take it on the other side.
One of the challenges of this moment is that we're at a time where Donald Trump lies so frequently, we try not to give credence to his ridiculous claims by giving them a platform. But some of them are worth debunking, even if only so that you can quickly debunk them yourselves while in the company of those you know who believe them. And now there's this new Trumpian lie that we feel is important enough to take down because it's got the potential to catch on and purposefully mislead voters. The Labor Department issued revised job growth numbers this week showing far weaker job growth than had previously been reported for the 12-month period that ended in March. So that's the period from April 2023 through March of 2024. The revised job numbers are still preliminary. These are not the final numbers, but they show that the monthly surveys actually overstated job growth in America in 2023 by 818,000 jobs. Now, these revisions are part of a routine yearly process where monthly job estimates are reconciled with actual state records from the unemployment offices. The last time jobs were revised down by this much was in 2009, following a recession when 824,000 jobs were overstated. So to be clear, this is a normal process working correctly to give us the most accurate picture of job growth in this country. Here's the lie that Donald Trump is spewing about this news on his social media platform, Truth Social. Quote, massive scandal. The Harris-Biden administration has been caught fraudulently manipulating job statistics to hide the true extent of economic ruin that they've inflicted upon America. New data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that the administration padded the numbers, all caps, with an extra 818,000 jobs that do not exist and never did, all caps. The real numbers are much worse than that. And if Comrade Kamala gets another 4 years, millions more jobs will vanish overnight. Inflation will completely destroy our country. Your life savings will be wiped out. With the Trump victory, we will once again have the greatest economy in history. MAGA 2024, blah, blah, blah. For fact's sake, that's not how revisions work. Nothing fraudulent. No one was caught. And there's no padding of the numbers. The U.S. president cannot mess with the numbers, and none of this has anything to do with inflation or your savings. The monthly jobs numbers are always 100% of the time revised later, and in fact, it starts as early as the following month. That's just the nature of big economic measurements like GDP or job numbers. They're preliminary calculations. They are not baseball scores where you know the final number at the end of the game. The initial figures are estimates. They're always revised either up or down later when more accurate data becomes available. They cannot be fiddled with by the president ever under any circumstances. On the first Friday of each month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is part of the Department of Labor, publishes a jobs report that includes the estimated total number of jobs added or lost in the United States. That monthly number is based on a survey. The Labor Department conducts a survey of employers to come up with an estimated count of how many people received a paycheck in each given month. We get estimates based on these surveys because that's the best way to gather data month by month. Think about it. Small businesses don't keep records in a way that they submit on a monthly basis. The hard numbers always take longer. That's why the revisions happen later, once a year, when a year's worth of hard data from state unemployment offices becomes available. Those numbers are reconciled with the monthly surveys to create the revised numbers. So the revised numbers we got this week, while they are not good news, are part of a normal routine yearly process that helps us get the most accurate data possible. They are not some nefarious economic plot by Democrats. They certainly aren't evidence that the monthly numbers were tampered with. And Donald Trump knows that because, again, this is how the process has always worked, just as it did in early 2019 when he was president, and the revised numbers came down by 500,000 jobs. There you go.
Let's be clear here. These are changes, as Ali said, occur all the time. In fact, under the Donald Trump administration, there was a downgrade of over 500,000 jobs. In the case of President Biden, his was over by 8,000 jobs. Well, in an economy that created 15 plus million jobs, 800,000 jobs, 1/15 of what it was supposed to be, or actually it's a bit less than that. Is it really something that should be disconcerting? I mean, it's not good news, but still, it is not what Donald Trump would like it to be. In these times, more than ever, the fourth estate, the media, it's imperative that they do their job. Unfortunately, that's not what we're finding. Even now, we continuously hear Kamala Harris has not given us her policies. Of course, she has given us a broad detail, a broad outline of what she intends to do, whether it be social programs, the military, etc. Given, again, broad outlines. I don't really hear them pestering Donald Trump as far as what will he do, what policies would he have. In fact, when they ran, he didn't even have a platform to speak of. Well, he now has a platform, Project 2025. Project 2025. That big plan written by the Heritage Foundation intend to take away our liberties and much worse. But it's important, folks. We need good journalists like Ali Velshi. We need to give these journalists that do their job the kudos that they deserve, because in our current environment, it is so damn hard to find people who would report the news as they should. Absolutely. So welcome aboard, Billy Allison Irwin. Welcome aboard, Eric Hayes. Welcome aboard, Alice Aaron Dreams. Let me just point out that Donald Trump's job creation number, I didn't mention it, but it's negative. In other words, he left office with less people working than he came into office. And if you remove COVID, he has a worse record, of course, than Biden, both GDP and in every single aspect. They will bring up, well, there wasn't inflation. Well, you don't get inflation in a COVIDized world. So those are actual statements of fact, statements of economy. And for those who are, what the Republicans are trying to do right now is make Kamala the president. If they can make her the president, they make her the incumbent. Don't fall for it. She's not the president. She's the vice president. You can't have it two ways. You can't say one time that vice presidents don't matter, and then in another time say vice presidents do matter. It doesn't work that way. Thank you for making sure I created the addition on the Trump employment, brother Howard. Let's go to Tag. Come on in, Tag.
Hi, Egberto. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Mike. Talk to me, my brother.
Well, I just think it's important to remember when you talk about these job creation numbers, there's also a direct relationship to the increase in gross domestic product and also an increase in economic activity.
Absolutely.
So, as those numbers, the larger those employment numbers get, the more of those other two you have also, which shows a healthy economy, which I think is very important. So that's why we're looking at those job growth numbers. Well, that's why Clinton brought it up, because it directly influences these other factors, and that's all good for our economy. Now, I wanted to switch over to something I just learned this morning, which I think is fascinating. The Trump family is starting a cryptocurrency. Have you heard about that?
Oh yes, in fact they've had a lot of crypto visitors, and in fact he changed his tune on TikTok for one of that reasons as well. Yes, sir.
The Defiance one. So anybody who loves crypto better get in on Trump's new cryptocurrency thing, and also the Trump family is advocating working with Telegram, which is a platform for what do you say? A communication platform, and
right.
It's all encoded. So a couple of things that they're trying to do right now to shore up their base and their economic activity, and especially, I mean, who would be crazy enough to get involved with a Trump cryptocurrency? So that's kind of my word for this morning.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you, Tag. Keep calling, keep listening, keep sharing. Have a great day, my brother.
Good day, bud. Bye.
All right, let's go to Brother Brian. Come on in, Brother Brian.
Yeah, I can't believe this nation would actually elect a communist such as Harris. I can't believe that the people are buying this.
I guess I am buying it, so I guess you can't believe me either, my brother, because first of all, no, the woman is not a communist. In fact, she doesn't even have a proclivity to communism. I mean, if you take a look at what she said in her policies, and if you look at Biden's policies, if she were to, I would love her to rule much left of Biden, to be honest with you, but it's not going to happen. But that's what I want, and I'm not a communist, so I don't know what you're talking about, my brother.
No, you're a communist, and so is Kamala Harris.
Okay. Okay.
A book about how bad our economic system is, correct?
It is terrible. I said our implementation of capitalism by definition is terrible. And if you can't see that, my brother, I am asking you what, look, if you have a system that between 1970 and 1924 and 2024 moved most of the assets and income from the 90% to the 10% and further to the 1%. That is what that economic system did. And you're going to tell me it's a great economic system? I am just giving you the aggregate results of the system, sir. That's all. I'm just giving you the numbers. You take it. You have a system that has taken all the monies out of the pocket, all the wealth out of the pockets of most Americans, including you. And you are then saying you want to call me a communist for saying that a system that does that is perfect.
No,
what
you
gives?
Just committed yourself to being a communist when you said you have an economic system. It's a we have an economic system.
No, what I'm saying. No. Hold on. It's amazing how you're going to try to use semantic, brothers. When I say you, it's in the form you have an economic system that, and anybody who listens understand what that means. I don't mean you, Brian. I mean you, us. Go ahead.
Okay. What is a communist system? Is that price fixing? You can
No,
kill-
let me explain. That's what you need. That's the first place you went wrong. A communist system is a system in which all the resources of production is controlled by the government. It's controlled by the government, and also within communism, under pure communism, the government is controlled by all the people, and all the people own all the resources. Everything it's a commune. That's what it is. Okay. Now, the reasons why pure communism doesn't work is because people have different aptitudes, people have different things that they want to work for. Now, what you have, the system that I believe in is actually called free enterprise with a very strong social safety net. That means the things that belong in the private sector should be in the private sector, and the things that belong in the public sector should be there. That's where I differ, and that's where that has been proven to be the most efficient way to allocate resources and to make sure that people get what they're worth. So no, your contention that I'm a communist is all wrong, but you choose to feel good by making yourself believe that that's who I am.
So price fixing from the state and the government for telling a person, here's what you're going to be paid for your goods and services is this amount.
No, what I'm saying, if somebody has cornered the market of eggs and decide they want to charge $10 for egg, I will not. Our public system should prevent that from happening. You can call it price fixing. I call that humanity.
No, what?
But I gotta go, Brian.
Of course, yeah.
No, Brian, we're at 56. Come on, man. You got a whole lot of time, my brother. Come on, you're at 56 now. All right, folks. Look, I need to jump back to the studio real quick.
Oh, nothing here. How about you, Jack?
No.
Nope, Jack says no. Go ahead and take it home.
All right. Love you all, callers, listeners. Thank you all for giving us a successful fund drive. Please remember the rest of the show is at politicsandright.com/newsletter, politicsandright.com/newsletter. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
You're listening to the American Democracy